All right, guys and gals. I've got a little project here. It'll probably be hopefully short and sweet. I'm not going to go through the whole disassembly process and all this good stuff, but what I'm doing is a valve job. The valves were pretty gunked up and they need to be lapped and all that good stuff. So I'm going to show you how I do that. And like I said, I've already taken the head off. You know, I'll save you a lot of time there. But let me show you what I got. So you can see here's the head. It's just a single piston job. I believe it's a 17 or 19 horsepower Briggs & Stratton. But you can see I've already started to take some of that off with this wire brush. But you can see the valves here. This one's sticking up a little more on this side. It was pretty gunked up, and this thing, sometimes it would start, sometimes not. Sometimes it would just backfire, and I think the valve was just getting gunked up there. Everything else was fine. The rods were in good shape. Don't forget that little cap. I take it off so I won't lose it, but don't forget to put it back on. So I'm going to finish off see, I'm lightly using this brass wheel. I use something like this because the diameter, you can see how it fits in there very nicely. And I can go around the inside here. And then I use something like this, a straight one, to get little specialty stuff. But you can see they're not huge, but they serve the purpose well here. See, I'm just working my way around, and it's all coming off pretty nice. It was pretty caked up on the top of the valves there. So it's coming off nicely. When I get to this point where I've got most of it off, then I'll go ahead and take the valves off. Alright, so the next step, we need to compress this down, get the little keepers out of there, and we can pull the valves out. And there's a couple of ways to do this. So you see how this, when you line it up and then you start tightening it down, it starts compressing the spring, and then you can pop the little keepers out and then unscrew this thing, right? And if you don't have one of these, I mean, it's really simple to use. I forget how much I paid for these, but let me get it in place so you can see what I'm doing. Yeah, so on this side you can see how it's right up against the valve, and then this one you put centered here on the spring. So now when you start tightening it down, the spring will compress, and these little keepers can pop out, and then you just take it out, right? Pretty simple. Yeah, see, even just by hand it's already compressing. So if you can't do it this way, well, while this is in the shape it's in, I'm going to go ahead and twist this out, and so there's the two halves of the keeper. Set that aside. I'm going to put it right next to that little plug. And I'm going to keep track of which one went on which one. So let me unscrew this. Alright, there's the spring. I'm going to set this right next to the keepers, and now we can pull the valve off. So I'm going to go through and finish cleaning all this stuff off, get all the junk. Yeah, you can see how it's caked up under here. And then we can lap that inner surface. There's that valve. The other method, you can get something like a piece of wood or something that you can insert in here that would flatten that out, so when you start pushing it down, the valve's not actually gonna move. That little wood block is going to keep it from moving, and then you can push the spring down and pop out the keepers. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get this other one off. Well, that sucker was on there, so maybe that was the problem. You hear that pop? That was the spring popping off of here. And maybe the thing was jammed, or maybe it was stuck in there. Maybe that's why we're getting all the backfires and all that good stuff. You know what I mean? Nope, can't see what I'm doing. My hands are oily. I'm dropping everything in the dirt. There's one half. There's the other half. Let's back it back out. Go. And there's our valve. So let's clean these jokers up and get ready to lap those things. Yeah, so these tools are pretty simple, pretty easy to use. They come in a little kit. Fairly inexpensive. If you do these a lot, these are worth having. If not, then the old method I was saying, where you just put something underneath and then punch it down with your hand or whatever, with your fingers. I've done that before. Used to do it that way all the time, but these are much easier. So if you have a bench grinder or something, that's great with the wheel on it. My bench grinder only has the solid wheels on them, so I just do it like this by hand. Alright, so I'm just going to finish getting all the big stuff off of this. I was about to put this in a vise to give it something to hold on to, but it's like, man, nah, you can't scratch up the shaft there, so that's not bad. So I'll do the same for the other one, and then we'll start lapping. Alright, so there's our little suction cup things, and what that does, you pick the one to fit the size of the head here. So when you pop these on, first you spread your valve grinding compound. I've always used this stuff. I mean, there's other stuff, you can get them in tubs. You spread it along the inside there. Then when you put that on, damn, that already feels pretty good. That feels much better already. But anyway, you get the size you need. So it'll stick on, and then you work it back and forth to get it smooth, right? So it's pretty easy. And this ain't gonna take much. It's actually feeling really much better just off of that quick cleaning. But we'll go ahead and do it. Alright, so which one first? Let's get this one. And you can hear it when it starts getting smoother. Alright, let's get it out of there. Clean off all the excess. And this one probably takes the larger size. Alright, well that's done. Let's clean off all the excess and get this thing ready to reassemble. And while you're in there, look at your little parts there. This thing is spring loaded. A little a bushing there. Make sure these are in place, and make sure your rocker arms, make sure they're seated properly. I've had sometimes that were fairly loose, and they kept trying to adjust the valve clearance. Well, it was constantly changing because that thing was just rattling around. So yeah, this one's fine. All this other stuff's fine. And I might put a little WD-40 on this just to give it a little lube. I know it's not the proper lube. I don't have any like assembly grease or anything like that. But any kind of oil, just a dab of oil so it'll move back and forth freely while you're assembling everything. Okay, when I set those in, so just like we took them off, you're going to have to put the springs in place and compress them down, and then put your keepers on there. Everything's lined up. Let's tighten this down. Make sure they don't slide off. You don't want that spring to go shooting off somewhere in your shop. In this case, it's underneath the tent here. and get lost really easy. So it's compressed enough. The trick is getting these keepers in where they're supposed to be. And you can see it's just got to drop them in right there. So let's see if I can get a needle nose pliers here. Yep. I'm dropping them already. There we go. All right, there's one. The second one. Let's see if it'll seat into place like it should. And there we go. See how they're seated in there. There it is moving, so it's much cleaner, moving freely. Come on, it's not wanting to drop. Let me go in a little farther. There we go. So now let's back it off. There we go. So they're both seated in there nicely. Can you see? Yeah. And always test them. All right. They're ready to go and seated nicely. So don't forget that one little cap. Put the cap on before you put before you start assembling and put your rods through and all that good stuff. So, but that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, so it's actually pretty easy. You know, once you get it apart, a lot of times getting the head off can be a hassle, but it's not really. I mean, when you dig into it, it's not that hard, guys, you know. And of course it's easier when you have the right tools, but there's always, you know, other ways to do it, right? Like, you know, compressing that spring down. There's an old way to do it without having the specialized tools. And these tools, although it's not expensive, I forget, I paid $20-25 or something for the set. Who knows? I'll include a link on Amazon, and if you find yourself doing this a lot, then it's well worth it. Makes it much easier to compress those springs. And this is the setup for the overhead valve stuff. If you have the old box engine, that's a whole different compressor. I'll show links to both of them so you can compare them. You'll see which one's which. But I guess that is it for this video. So, you know, as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and watch for my next video.